Am I the a-hole for not inviting my daughter to my wedding? I, 46 male, am getting married to my fiancée, 39 female. We have been together for 3 years. I have 2 daughters, 18 female, 9 female, from previous relationships, and my youngest's mother left when she was 6. My fiancée is a very sophisticated person and have exquisite tastes. She also does not really care for young children, and this has created tension between her and my youngest daughter. While our plans have been delayed due to global circumstances, our plans to get married are finally going ahead. It's going to be a very lavish and expensive wedding. Due to the nature of the wedding and my fiancé's preferences, our wedding is also going to be child-free. We will, however, be inviting my oldest as she is no longer a child, and because unlike my youngest, her and my fiancé get along well. However, I didn't realize that my youngest expected to come to the wedding. She tried to tag along with my fiancé and oldest when they were going shopping for a dress for my oldest, because she thought she was going to need a dress too. I explained to her that the wedding was going to be for adults only, and that she wouldn't be attending. She started crying and getting mad, which stressed out my fiancé. She has been distraught about this for days and hasn't let it go. Then my parents came by to visit today, and my youngest told them what had happened. When they asked for clarification on the situation, I explained to them that my daughter wouldn't be attending the wedding because the child-free rule applied to her as well. Besides, this wedding would not be suitable for a child, and I don't want my fiancé to have to deal with my daughter on the most important day of her life. My parents told me I was being a terrible father by prioritizing my fiancé over my daughter, that on the day of the wedding they would take my daughter out for a special day, which means they wouldn't be in the wedding. I told them they couldn't do that. Even if they didn't attend the wedding, I wouldn't let them take my daughter. And this has become a bigger conflict than I intended. My fiancé and I both think we're in the right for wanting a child-free wedding, but it appears I may lose my parents from the wedding over this, and I want to know if I'm in the right or not. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Yeah, dude. If your fiancé and a 9-year-old don't get along, that's because of an issue with your fiancé. How can you even say, unlike my youngest, her and my fiancé get along well? She's 9 years old. She's a child. It's not up to her to get along with your fiancé. You're the a-hole. She's a 9-year-old. I mean, come on. Your fiancé should not be your fiancé if she can't love your kid. That's about to be her mother, and your prioritization is going to ruin your relationship with your daughter long-term, especially if you don't let her attend the wedding. You're the a-hole, both you and your fiancé. I hope you change your mind and choose your daughter's happiness over your selfish bride-to-be. Agreed. The kid is a young child. How is she supposed to make a future with the two of you as her parental role models if she gets pushed so far aside? Perhaps allow her to participate in the ceremony and beginning of the reception, then taken out by a sitter. And you guys are a family. It is not your fiancé's day alone. This is a major change for all 4 of you. If your lady is so willing to forget your daughter at this stage of the game, it isn't going to get better. Get ready to pay the therapy bills. You have kids. Or marrying a woman who doesn't like kids, are surprised that your younger daughter, who will be a family unit with you and your fiancé, would like to go to the wedding. Go shocked Pikachu face when your parents call you out for being a horrible father. What a better way to let your kid know that they don't matter than to not include them to the ceremony celebrating your union to her new parent. Solid gold a-hole. You're the a-hole, OP. What do you do for an encore? Drop your youngest at a bus stop and wish her good luck in her new life? Throw out her things and turn her bedroom into a walk-in closet for the missus who has refined tastes. Not let your daughter eat dinner with you? Send her off to boarding school, since the new stepmom doesn't like kids. Fortunately, she is very sophisticated and has exquisite tastes, all except for where it applies to men, and how to successfully navigate relationships with their families. You're the a-hole, OP. You may not just lose your parents from the wedding, you're very likely also going to lose your daughter. Permanently. You're the a-hole. I don't know why you are marrying a woman who isn't willing to take you and your children as whole package, and you've handled this entire situation terribly. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my twin that she should have worked on herself instead of expecting me to let myself go for her wedding? My twin sister May and I are identical. At the end of our first year of college, I was in a car accident, and I ended up with a facial scar and major trauma. I started seeing a therapist because of the nightmares, and the fact that I was panicking anytime I got into a car. That led to me realizing there were some deeper issues, which we worked on. As part of that work, I got a physical, started working with a dietitian to fix my diet, and a smorgasbord of vitamin deficiencies it caused. I started working out, strength training 3 days and sprint or high-intensity interval trainings on 3, with our older sister. By the end of our first year of college, we had each gained about 30 pounds. By the end of the next year, I had lost half of it, but I was smaller at 134 pounds than my previous 120 because of the muscle mass. And that's been my size for the past half-decade. I found a new beautician, and she gave me long layers to make my natural curls be curls instead of wave of frizz I always wanted, but that my old one said would look bad and refused. I stopped bleaching it and let it go its natural dark blonde/light brown. I stopped spray tanning. Again, that's been my look for the past 5 years. I live in a rural area and the internet isn't great. Things like FaceTime just aren't options, and I can't post a lot of pictures on social media because of it. This is relevant because a big issue is that May didn't see me over the quarantine. We talked on the phone a couple times a week, but it mostly revolved around her wedding planning. She got engaged before the Rona put us on lockdown. I wasn't her maid of honor, so mostly I was being told decisions, not involved in the process. When it came to the bridesmaids' dresses, May just sent our sister-in-law and me a link and told us to get it in our size. Same with hair and makeup, but we had to arrange for a beautician because May's wouldn't do more than 4, and she wanted her friends at the appointment with her. Then she didn't do a bachelorette party with us. She did with her friends, or rehearsal dinner. So May didn't see any of us until the start of the wedding. She was livid. Apparently, she thought we would have stopped working out because of the Rona, or that we would have stopped when she announced her engagement so we didn't upstage her. She was also mad because I didn't try to hide my scar, didn't tan, and thought it would be implied. She made several snide remarks before throwing a drunk temper tantrum at the reception, basically accusing the 3 of us, but me especially, of trying to upstage her. I don't have that excuse because I was a designated driver, so sober. But I, quite famously, have a low tolerance for angry or crying drunks. I told her, if you're so insecure, you should have got off your butt, instead of expecting us to lay on hours to make yours look better. It only got worse from there. Our family is on my side because I didn't start it or do anything, but groom's family and her friends are giving me crap. So am I the a-hole? A wedding day is probably the day where your sister should have been the center of attention. Well, she did an exceptional job of that. Now everyone will remember her as Bridezilla. Not the a-hole at all, but I would suggest she works on herself. Maybe appoint a therapy session for both of you to improve this relationship, if both of you want, of course. Not the a-hole. Your sister sounds like a majorly entitled Bridezilla. How are none of you, her bridesmaids, not invited to the bachelorette or the rehearsal dinner? Shaking my head. Yeah, how does that even happen? As bridesmaids, they are part of the wedding party, and therefore should be at the rehearsal dinner. I've never heard of such a thing, but then again, I am older than dirt, and times might have changed. Not the a-hole. You went through a lot, and instead of being proud of you for facing your fears, your sister has been incredibly selfish. Seriously, it sounds like she wanted to get married just to feel good about herself, rather than because she truly loves someone. Has she always been like this? To be honest, it's gotten worse since the accident. I don't really know what set it off then, but it's been worse. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for pulling out of my brother's wedding because my old tormentors will be there? My brother Ben is getting married and his fiancée Faith went to the same high school as me. I used to be mercilessly harassed in high school and didn't have any friend, which led to a horrible period of depression and anxiety. I now mainly deal with suppressing those memories and cutting off contact with people I knew from high school. Faith used to be part of a mean girl clique who were especially terrible to me, but to be fair, she was more of a follower of the clique. She never directly mistreated me, but she used to just laugh along when her clique made fun of me. When Ben started dating Faith, I was shocked and had a hard time dealing with it because it brought back what her clique used to do to me. But if I ever bring up something they did, Faith usually just laughs it off, saying she doesn't remember, and that they were probably just young and stupid. It took a lot of convincing by Ben, and a lot of time working on myself for me to finally forgive Faith and accept her as my brother's girlfriend. They are now engaged, and Ben asked me to be his best woman. I accepted, and even agreed to help out with Faith's side of wedding events because her maid of honor has too much on her plate. The wedding planning has been going smoothly so far, until Faith told me she was going to invite her high school clique to her bachelorette party when she can have it. I immediately felt the old anxiety come back, and asked her if they will be invited to the wedding too. She said yes, and learning that nearly crushed me. I spent some time thinking about it, and I don't think I could be at the wedding if those people are there. Faith at least never tortured me herself, so I can handle it. But seeing her gang leaders again would very likely trigger my depression, or worse, send me into a panic attack at the wedding itself. I told Ben that I might need to pull out of the wedding because of that, but I can still help however I can with the wedding planning, as long as I don't come in contact with Faith's old gang. Ben is very upset, and says I'm only thinking of myself, and clearly I don't want to be at his wedding because I still don't accept Faith as his future wife. He also told me I should move on from whatever happened in high school. But even if I try to do that, a high-stress event like this wedding would be the worst time to test if moving on works. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm sick and tired of people telling emotional scarred victims to move on because it wasn't childhood. I know people are horrible accepting any kind of consequences, but rarely what type of mistreatment is so dismissed and mocked as the school abuse. Oh, it's fine. You spent your formative years tormented by your peers. Why can't you move on? The whole situation is so ridiculous. As if just because it was fellow children tormenting you, it's suddenly fine? And then we're labeled as pathetic, because in our adulthood we have to deal with the consequences of it that was indeed carried out by, at the time, children, but also supported and endorsed by adults. People whose job should have been protecting us and setting a good example. Nope. To hell with that. She will never stop triggering you, and the least you can do for yourself is not go to the wedding to have a smile on the face of the people who tormented you. Mind you, you are being considerate. You have trauma. There is no guarantee you'll be able to look happy at the wedding no matter how hard you try. An unhappy guest at a wedding is a crappy guest. You're doing them a favor. Also, Faith remembers full well. Do with that info as you will, but she's full of it when she claims she forgot. If she were truly worthy of your forgiveness, she'd have a big talk with you, deeply apologize with no excuses, acknowledge your trauma, and disinvite her clique because they're her high school friends and you are her sister-in-law. This, just all of this. OP not the a-hole, but everyone else in this story is. Not the a-hole. Fiancée never apologized for what she and her friends put you through. She just made excuses. Have you told her how upsetting it is to see those people? Talk to her directly. If she blows you off, you know she doesn't care about you and has no loyalty to family. You would not be the a-hole if you pull out of the wedding because of that. I haven't told Faith because I thought it would cause less drama if I told my brother. And I'm at a wedding party on my brother's side too, so it makes more sense. Plus, Faith knows I didn't want her around at the beginning of their relationship, which caused a rough patch for all three of us. So I learned that it's better to talk to Ben directly than talking to Faith, and then having it come back to Ben as me having an issue with her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling future sister-in-law she was wasting her parents' money on a wedding? I, 32 female, have a brother Andre, 34 male, who is engaged to Molly, 30 female. We come from a humble middle-class family that values hard work with their hands, farmers and factory workers. Andre is a factory supervisor at a car parts manufacturing business, and I help manage an apartment complex. Molly, however, comes from a family with money. Her parents grew up poor, but her dad worked a good line job in the 90s. Her mom was a corporate lawyer, and now her family's loaded. Both her siblings and her have what I call a spoiled complex. Molly and Andre revealed yesterday that they would be having a big, beautiful wedding. They began listing things off that they want. Limo, dress designer, venue, etc. When I mentioned how expensive all that would be, Molly said she wasn't worried. When I asked why, she said her parents gave her $50,000 cash for her wedding, as they believe it is their responsibility for the bride's parents to pay for the wedding. Yes, I live in the States. I couldn't believe it. I felt Molly was spending money frivolously. I told her she should invest that money instead of having a huge wedding. She promptly told me that whenever I get a man, that I can do just that, and to not tell her what to do with her money. Andre chuckled, but I didn't find it funny. It is not her money, it's her parents'. Molly's a teacher and doesn't make that much, So I think this is a great opportunity to get ahead financially. Andre, of course, took her side and told me to mind my business. Then today, Andre called me. We talk often, and I asked if he was seriously going to let her waste $50,000 in one day. He said that's not his place to tell her how to spend her family's money, but I disagree. Andre told me to mind my own business again, but I think he's making a mistake marrying someone who just throws money around. I must have been on speakerphone because Molly responded with, "And that's why you're single, because you can't mind your damn business." She then called me jealous, and Andre's on her side. I'm not jealous, but I know weddings shouldn't be that much. Andre said Molly knows how to handle money because her parents taught her, but I think this is a mistake. And my parents agree that Molly's just flaunting wealth for no reason. But Andre says Molly's more financially responsible than any of us, stating she helps him manage his 401k and started a Roth IRA for him when they met. But I just can't believe that she's financially responsible if she's going to waste $50,000 in one day. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You do sound jealous that Molly's family's able to and wants to help her out. Get off your high horse. You're the a-hole. In Molly's words, mind your own business. People get to spend their money however they see fit. Cracks me up that Opie said, it's not her money, it's her parents. Yes, Opie, that's literally the point. It's not your money, it's her parents' money. Now her and brother's money. And her parents decided to gift it to her and Andre for their wedding. Molly was also on point with that. She promptly told me that whenever I get a man, that I can do just that, and to not tell her what to do with her money. That's fact. Opie can have a frugal wedding when she marries, but she can't tell people what to do with their money for their wedding. You're the a-hole. Also, the money was earmarked by her parents for the wedding. So if anything, she's respecting their wishes for their money by using it for the purpose it was intended. The point is moot regardless, since it is her money considering they gave it to her, but just another way that Opie's logic is flawed. I hate to break it to you, but you're the a-hole. Molly's right, you should mind your own business. It's not your money nor your wedding. I could understand if it was your parents' money that you might be upset, but this is her parents' money. And if they want to spend $50,000 on a wedding, they can. If you want to continue to have a relationship with your brother and his future wife, just leave the situation alone. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that my sister was a better mother than her? Original post. I, 17, was born when my sister Ari was already 18. She stayed at home till I was 10 doing her university and master's. So my parents obviously spoiled me because I was the miracle boy. But I always remember it was Ari who taught me to be polite, chew with my mouth closed, how to clean even, be nice and all this stuff like that. It was so much better when she'd make food than my mom. I remember when I was 9, she and her boyfriend, husband now, took me to the park. Someone asked if I was her son, and she said close enough. And when I asked later what she meant, she said I was their practice baby. But when she left and she's like stayed gone. I've seen her so few times since. Like there was her wedding, my other sister's wedding, and functions like that. Point is, in those 10 years, she kept me from being the spoiled brat my mom and dad were definitely turning me into. So even if she didn't want to see me in the last 7 years, I'm still grateful. So university applications are being filled out and I want to do software engineer at Waterloo. My mom wants me to stay local. Yesterday, it turned into a big family Zoom meeting where Ari was involved. She said if staying with family was an issue, her family was moving to Kitchener. And her husband heard, and he piped up saying he'd loved it if I could stay with them. I thought that was cool, because I'd finally get to see them again and meet my niece. But my mom said, no, you're not going. So I got really mad and asked why not. She said you're not going to need your mother when you start university. That made me angrier. And I said, before Ari left, she was a better mom to me than you anyway. That didn't go well since my mom ran to her room to cry. So I couldn't see. My dad said I was ungrateful and my sister, not Ari, told me to stop being an a-hole. So I don't know. Edit for anyone confused. Kitchener is a city right next to Waterloo. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not stay home. I'm going to guess that your sister is keeping her distance for reasons that have nothing to do with you and everything to do with your parents. I would recommend some damage control. Apologize to your mom, but make it clear to her that the decision about where to go for university should not be based on a boy needing his mother, but about what is best for you and your education. You are going to be legally an adult after all. This would totally be the vibe I got too, if not for the park thing though. Like, okay, maybe telling a stranger close enough when asking if Opie's her kid I can kind of see, but then telling Opie that they're her practice baby is kinda off. I could be totally off base, but I get the feeling there's also some other stuff going on Opie isn't aware of, where their mom may have reasons to not favor the arrangement either. Don't get me wrong, the mom's immediate "you'll need your mom" comment isn't great either. But I just don't think Opie has the full picture of the overall dynamic. It's not unheard of for a baby from a teenage parent to be passed off as a younger sibling instead. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but the age gap would be right. And it would explain both Ari's comment and his mom's reaction. It's unlikely nowadays, but not impossible. Famous example, Jack Nicholson's older sister was actually his biological mother, and his mother was actually his grandmother. He had no idea about this until the 70s after both women were dead. Just saw this. It is not what's happened here. I've seen photos of my mom pregnant with me and have seen the video they took after I was born. Anyway, all's here. Call Ari in private and talk this out. Sounds like she, 1, knows how your parents can be, and 2, can help you figure out what to do. Sounds like you should plan on going to her place for uni. The mother is very much an a-hole here for trying to take away a wonderful opportunity for Opie for completely stupid, non-valid reasons. And now for the update. So, I've gotten a lot of DMs. So I'm updating because people seem to be really worried. Pretty much when mom came to my room to talk to me about what I said, I'd already decided I was going to apologize. You guys made it clear I needed to do that much. She asked if I meant what I said about Ari being a better mom than her or if I just said it to hurt her. It is true. I said it was because I was upset she doesn't want me to go, so I just said that and apologized. We hugged and she said we'd talk about it later. What I said to my mom did work its way through my sisters. It went from Isla to Sarah and from Sarah to Ari. I got a FaceTime from Ari where she reminded me she taught me it was wrong to lose my temper like that, but with mom she gets it. She seemed proud when I said I apologized. I wanted to say thanks for all she did for me, but it felt wrong over FaceTime. She did tell me she's planning on having the whole family over to her new house in Kitchener after they move for my niece's birthday. She made it clear if I get into Waterloo, I'm staying with her or coming over as much as I can. Now here's where it gets wacky. My mom's cousin, who was like the head of that side of the family, found out what happened. He wasn't on the Zoom because he's really busy. He found out and scolded my mom and went on about how great a school Waterloo is, and how selfishly she's holding me back and how she's trying to keep me as her baby forever. Isla eavesdropped on the whole thing and told me everything our uncle said to mom. Honestly, it makes me wonder if things between Ari and me is what my mom and him. So, my mom told me she was wrong about Waterloo and I had her support to stay with Ari. She told me her permission means I have to call her every night, text good morning every morning, no partying, no girlfriends, be a good uncle and treat Ari with respect. And I got into Waterloo's engineering, and we went to Ari's new home for my niece's birthday party and spring break in March. I try to tell Ari and her husband how I feel and how thankful I am for how Ari raised me. But I blubbered and couldn't say anything, and she just pulled me in and hugged me and kissed me on the forehead like non-stop for minutes while kinda crying. They gave me such a tight hug and said I'd always be their first son. My brother-in-law took me to Waterloo and it's so cool. My niece's birthday party was also great. She's so cute. I told Ari I'd be willing to babysit, but she strictly told me my only priority would be my studies. When we left, Ari gave me a huge hug and said she couldn't wait for me to come. So thank you guys for all your support and advice. That's great that you are pursuing what you want and reconnecting with your sister. But your mother's demands are ridiculous. Coming from parents very similar, I'd advise you play along now, but start making boundaries when you go to college. Soon you will be an adult, You will have a job and responsibilities that may not allow for constant communication with your mother. You may make meaningful and/or romantic connections with other people you'll want to pursue. That is natural. Your parents won't handle it well, but as time goes on, it should get easier. I wish you the best. Sounds like my mother. I haven't heard from you in weeks. Call logs say I spoke to you 2 days ago. My dad gets on the phone yelling about how they pay for my phone that I shut him down with. Nope, I'm paying my own money to be on Aunt's plan. He sputtered and hung up and nobody bothered me the rest of finals. Lol. And then there's my mom who said that one call or visit every 2 or 3 weeks is enough when I ask her if she would like to talk more often. That is all well and good, but your mom's demands are still crazy. As someone whose parents gave them similar demands, I completely agree. It's near impossible to maintain and completely unrealistic to expect. No drinking, partying, or girlfriends, and you have to text every morning and call every night? That's insane in the most overbearing way possible. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law to parent her child and kicking her out when she fails? I, 32 female, and my husband, 34 male, are child-free. We also work from home on a regular basis, and both our jobs involve doing a lot of meetings and talking. We have a 3-bedroom house where one of the rooms is used as a guest room while another is made as an office. If we have meetings at the same time, one of us just hops on the laptop and goes to a different room or living room. The bedrooms are located on the top floor while the kitchen, dining, and living room are on the bottom floor. My sister-in-law had some repairs done to her house. She has arranged to stay with someone else, but it fell through, so she asked if she can stay in our house during the day with her kids, 10 female and 6 male. I think their school is currently closed due to COVID outbreak there, but not sure. Me and my husband explained that both of us work from home most of the time and we will not be able to take the time off to watch her or her kids. She promised they will behave. Yesterday, my husband was asked to come to the office, so I was alone with my sister-in-law and her children. It was their first day out of 2 weeks of repairs. I was getting ready for my meeting when I hear a screeching sound. I initially thought that kids are watching TV and might have turned it on too loud, so I've asked them to turn it down and start the meeting. The sound didn't stop and people in the meeting could hear it, and it was making them uncomfortable. I have tried moving to different rooms, but it was still loud, so I had to leave the meeting and come downstairs to see what the sound is. Turns out my sister-in-law's youngest is throwing a tantrum and she's just sitting there not doing anything. I have politely asked her if she can calm down her child, as the noises make me uncomfortable and interfere with my job. She says, okay, and I go back to my home office hoping to rejoin the meeting. However, the sound didn't stop, and in fact, it became worse. The kid has started banging on the floor. I come down again and tell my sister-in-law to parent her child and stop this behavior as I'm trying to work, or they have to leave. She was trying to get into an argument, but I have said I had enough, and she must leave now and is no longer welcome to stay for the 14 days she originally planned. When my husband returned, he agreed with me. However, we have already received calls from his parents calling me an a-hole for kicking them out. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I gave my sister-in-law plenty of time to calm down the kid and she could take him outside to the garden or the car, but she chose not to. The child is not autistic or have any issues as my sister-in-law claims. The entire reason for the tantrum was because the child was not allowed to play in our console as we don't have any games appropriate for his age. He is known to break stuff, and the game he wanted to play is a horror adult game. Edit 2. To clarify the above and reword it, sister-in-law claims the kid is not autistic or have any mental illnesses or issues that can cause such behavior. In no way or form I have intended it to sound as if the kid has autism, and I don't believe the sister-in-law. And also, their house is available to stay at. Only one room is being renovated. Their bedrooms, bathroom, and kitchen are still available to use. She just wanted to stay with someone else during daytime as she is not fond of the builders and doesn't like the noise they make, as the builders are there from about 9 to 6. After, she has no issues returning home and staying there. Now for the top comments. Not stay home because while controlling a tantrum is not always possible, taking your kid outside or to the car is. Exactly what I was gonna say. When I was nannying and one of the parents were working from home, I was mindful enough that if a tantrum was occurring, a swift, Come on, let's get your shoes on and go for a walk. How about if we can find some ladybird/ant/etc. He loved insects. Even if he was still tantrum zone outside, it then stopped pretty quickly. Yep, I have ushered many kids out of many rooms at houses for various reasons over my years as a nanny. Tantrums, excited playing. I even had to shuffle one kid out of the room while her father argued with someone over a bill belonging to his recently deceased wife. Insisted? I just picked them up and physically moved them. Little people having big feelings can't always do two things at once. Not stay home. Since your in-laws are so upset over this, it sounds like your sister-in-law and kids should go stay with them. That's why they're upset. Haha. Not stay home. Looks like we now know why the other plans fell through. Your sister-in-law is probably so used to her poorly mannered kids she doesn't even notice anymore. The fact that she just sat there without addressing the noise is gutsy. Worst case, she just doesn't care. Best case, she was trying to ride out the tantrum. Which is fair, but you can take your kids somewhere to scream and flail where it doesn't interfere with your gracious host's work. Outside, for example. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for telling my mother she's no longer allowed around my daughters? My mother, female 46, and I, female 24, have never had a best relationship, but it's never been bad per se. For about a month now, every time my daughters, female 5, female 3, female 1-year-old and 8 months, come home from her house, my oldest has asked some weird questions. Here are some of the things my 5-year-old said to me. 1. Mama, do you think I look like a boy? 2. Mama, do you love sisters' names more than me? 3. Mama, do you hate Nana? When I asked why she asked, these were her answers. 1. Nana said blue is for boys. 2. You spend the most time with them. And 3. Because you never let youngest sister go with us. She's not even 3 months old yet. Another thing she said one day was, Mama, I want to stay with you. When I reassured her that she was staying with me and asked her what she meant, she said that Nana said she was going to be our new mommy. When I confronted her about these things and the new mommy thing, she said that my daughter must have misunderstood something and claimed she was telling them she was going to be a new mommy, was gonna get a puppy, and my daughter must have thought she was saying that she was going to be their new mommy. I asked her to watch what she says around my kids and reminded her that little ears are always listening. I picked them up today and my daughter said, Mama, do you think we're fat? I asked her why she asked me that. Nana said you must be trying to get us to lose weight. I called my mom and asked her WTF that meant. Them girls are always hungry when they come over my house. You don't feed them enough. No, dumbass. They have no limitations and a lot more options at your house. That's why they like it. Then I was fixing lunch and she asked me if they take away kids like her. I asked her what she meant. She elaborated with kids that go to church, which means poor kids. I told her that the church is there to help people and nobody will ever take her away from me. She told me that my mom was telling her that she was going to have to take care of them when they got taken away. I asked her if Nana said why they'd get taken away. She said, Nana said they take girls for mommies that need help to take care of them. I texted my mom and told her because of all these things, she is no longer allowed around my girls. I don't want no contact with her either. She called me a few times and when I didn't answer, sent me 9 messages telling me that I was taking it the wrong way. My daughter is blowing it out of proportion and begging me not to do this to her. She left me 3 voicemails crying about how I took her babies from her and she doesn't deserve this. My aunt and younger siblings are consequently angry with me regarding my decision and have definitely made their feelings known. Lots of nasty messages. I have been writing all of this information down in case I need it in the future. Not stay home. Make sure that she isn't allowed to pick up your kids from school or other places. And screenshot those texts and save those voicemails, preferably on a different device than your phone just in case. You need to do a lot more. Make an appointment with CPS and document these incidents with the dates and specifics. She's already tipped her hand to having a plan to take your kids, using the system to do it. Get over it to just know mother-in-law and follow the advice. I have been documenting these incidents. I didn't really know what else I could do about it, so thank you. I will post there and I will be letting CPS know. Please, please, please do it ASAP. Your mother's behavior is incredibly alarming. How do I even go about that? Do I just call CPS and tell them these things? Sorry if I seem ignorant to it. I've never had to deal with CPS for my kids or really anything like this before. You're not ignorant. Most good, healthy parents have no idea how to deal with CPS. Because if you have happy, healthy children, why would you? Contacting CPS usually means there's a pretty nasty issue that no one should have to deal with. But alas, there are twat waffles out there who necessitate the need for such services. And then good people have to figure out how to navigate complicated legal systems. Update. My mom got a $30,000 personal loan in my name without my knowledge. The account is from February, which was when they bought a boat. Now, they've missed 4 payments and told me they're going to let it default since the boat can't be repossessed, and they're going to call DCFS on me. Original post. I knew my mom had her eye on a pontoon boat for the past year. She and my dad retired in 2022, and while they aren't swimming in money, they didn't seem to be struggling either. Or so I thought. They bought a boat in February for a little over $30,000. I didn't think much of it, since they've always rented a pontoon boat 2 to 3 times a year and didn't appear to have money issues. At the start of July, I began preparing to buy a house. When I applied for a pre-approval, I found out my credit score was barely over 600, and I had an extra $30,000 plus in debt I had no idea about. Even worse, it was 90 plus days late. I told the lender the account wasn't mine, and he suggested my identity had probably been stolen, likely by someone close to me, since the money would have had to go to a bank account in my name. I shared a bank account with my ex-fiancé, so I asked the bank to look into it. They said the account had been closed a couple of years ago, when we broke up, and no money had been sent to or taken from it since. I filed a dispute with the company and the credit agencies, assuming I had been hacked or that my identity had been stolen. About a week ago, I received a notice from the company at my apartment, the first I'd heard from them, saying they were going to charge off the account if payment wasn't made. I requested more information and was linked to their fraud department. They were able to tell me where the money was sent, to a bank account from when I was a minor that I shared with my mom. When I called the bank, they confirmed there was recent activity on the account, and statements showed the loan coming in and almost all of the money being transferred into what looked like my mom's account at the same bank. I haven't used that bank in more than a decade. I called my mom and asked her about it, and after a long pause, she admitted that's how they bought the boat. They made 1 payment on the account and realized they probably couldn't afford the monthly payment for the next 5 years. When I asked why they hadn't told me, she said it was because they figured I'd say no, and they were right, and that they had worked hard in their lives and wanted to enjoy retirement. It ended with them saying the boat couldn't be repossessed because it was a personal loan. My mom suggested I declare bankruptcy, and I told them I was going to the police. My mom said no too, claiming they wouldn't take it seriously. When I insisted, she hinted she might have to call DCFS on me. My 2-year-old burned himself on a hot pan earlier this year. A simple ER visit where we were told accidents happen and is fine, over an unsafe home. I still think I'm going to the police because declaring bankruptcy would make it impossible for me to buy a house. I just needed to vent and get any advice. Now for the top comments before reading the update. She stole $30K, potentially ruined your financial future for 7 years, threatened to put your child in a situation where they could be taken and put in foster care for a freaking pontoon boat? OP, this right here. All this unnecessary suffering and stress over a pontoon boat? I'm sorry, but your mom sucks. Yep, this right here. It's all about enjoying their retirement. They're willing to hurt and abuse anyone who gets in the way of them having a nice retirement. Don't worry about the FCS. Chances are they will not investigate the report anyway. If they do, it's obnoxious, but these are 80% unfounded. You may need an attorney to represent you and file cease and desist letters that could turn into restraining orders. They stole $30,000 from you, and it was premeditated.
They couldn't qualify for the loan themselves, so they stole the money from you instead, without asking. With a dollar amount, the DA is likely to press charges. I keep being shocked by parents who steal from their kids. This takes it to a fun new place with the threats of Child Protective Services. Please report this to the police. In addition, and tell them about the threats to contact Child Protection. For what it's worth, threats to file for grandparents' rights or to call CPS are a bright line for me. I would strongly recommend that you consider cutting contact with your parents or limiting their involvement with your family. They can't be trusted. Now for the update. I filed my police report the same day as my first post. The officer and I talked for about 20 minutes, and I provided a printed statement from the bank. A few days later, I spoke with a detective for another 20 minutes. Fast forward about 2.5 weeks, and my dad called to say my mom had been arrested. He said an officer and a detective showed up at their house asking to speak with her. When she went onto the porch, they grabbed her and arrested her. The detective, the same one I talked to, explained they had a warrant. My mom has never been in trouble with the law in her life, and she was arrested on a felony charge. They tried talking to her, but she immediately requested a lawyer. They stopped questioning her, but didn't allow her to see a lawyer right away. My dad was furious, but the detective told him to have a lawyer go to the county jail in the morning before she went to see the judge. The next morning, her lawyer spoke with her and she was released in the afternoon with a new court date. About a week later, I received a call from DCFS requesting to meet with me about my son. I had nothing to hide, so I agreed. He spoke for about half an hour at my apartment and I explained the situation. The caseworker seemed understanding and said there were no obvious issues, but she had to follow up on the report. I will say that if I'm ever in trouble, I'm hiring a lawyer. The case was dismissed at her next court date in late September. The detective called me the next day and explained that the state attorney believed they wouldn't be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally stole my identity. He said he figured it was a flimsy reason because he had documents from the bank and loan company. He mentioned that the state attorney often drops cases, even clear-cut ones, especially when it's non-violent and they have a hired attorney. She never made a statement other than having her attorney tell the detective she didn't do it. The detective also said the loan company might go after my mom in a lawsuit. What brings me back here is that, a couple of weeks ago, the account was removed from my credit report. Even better, I got a letter from DCFS yesterday stating that the allegation against me was unfounded. I'm never talking to my piece of trash mom again. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice and hope in my first post. It just sucks that she'll probably end up with a free boat out of it, unless the loan company sues her, which I hope they do. Send the loan company the address where the boat is kept, with a photo. The problem is, they took out a personal loan, not a boat loan. In other words, they borrowed cash in her name, then bought the boat with cash, so the boat is not collateral for the loan. They might be able to sue the parents, but they'd have to basically prove in civil court what the state's attorney would not bother prosecuting, which would probably cost more than $30,000 in legal fees. Personally, if my parents called DCFS on me for revenge, that would be the end of my relationship with them, never to revive again. I would never let them see the grandchildren. OP, freeze your children's credit too. Have a lawyer send a cease and desist letter stating, since you took out a loan in my name and then called in DCFS, you are no longer able to contact me or my child. Attach a copy of the loan papers and DCFS report. If she tries after that, look into a restraining order. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to subsidize my wife and kids anymore? Original post. All three of them are adults with full-time jobs. None of them have contributed financially to our household budget. My wife went back to work full-time when our youngest was 7. He is currently 24, and our oldest is 27. The kids have no student debt. Our retirement property is overseas, and that's where I am currently. 2 months ago, I finally had enough. I came home from an out-of-town work trip, and none of the food I requested be in the house was there. And it wasn't anything extravagant, just a loaf of sourdough, some deli meat, cheese, and a few condiments. Enough so I could make a sandwich before going grocery shopping. Apparently, that was too difficult for 3 adults to manage. My wife and I had an argument about it, and the kids took her side. I reminded them they were supposed to be contributing to the budget, but all three of them started whining about how expensive life is. No kidding, I'm working to support all four of us. Whatever, I made plans to go to our property on my next rotation. So after my time off, I went back to work. When I flew home, I just stayed at the airport overnight and flew out the next morning. I also didn't deposit money into the budget account, so now they're paying for everything. The house, my truck, and my wife's car are all fully paid off. They're covering their own utilities, property taxes, food, and bills. And they're all furious that I'm not giving them money. I'm good here. When I go back to work, I'll do the same thing. Stay overnight at the hotel and fly to work. My company even flew me to a more convenient city to fly out from. I think 3 adults with full-time jobs and a free place to live should do fine. I probably missed a bunch of information, but I'm a bit drunk, so feel free to ask questions. If they're not stupid, I'll answer. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No, not the a-hole. What's your next move? It already sounds like you're separated. Is that becoming permanent? I don't know how to assist you, but I wish you the best of luck. I'd be curious what exactly is expensive when they all work full-time and have no rent or car payments to make. If their electricity bills divided by 3 are so high it eclipses a rent payment, they should use less. If they spend their money on food deliveries and shopping, too bad, so sad. Not anymore. Not the a-hole, but you probably should have made your kids adults long before this. From what you wrote, they appear to live with you and don't have much going for them. Yep, sounds like some parenting failure. Kind of made the situation is now like you guys didn't leave me sandwich stuff. That's it. Good luck. Convo should have been had 10 years ago. Are you even sure they're paying for things like the property taxes and other bills? Are they under your name? Because you might want to switch it out so they don't let it just go into collection and you end up with a bill. I work with a guy who taught me a very important thing. There's a huge difference between a problem and my problem. Now for the update. I woke up and read so many more comments than I expected. Many of them made me think, I really don't love my wife anymore. I love my kids, but they are leeches. I will be contacting a lawyer and initiating a divorce. I also will be pulling the plug on my retirement plans with them. I have enough money to last me the rest of my life here. I also have a defined benefit pension, but it won't kick in for another 5 years. Part of the reason I was working so hard away from home was to provide for my family. But now I see they don't give a half damn about me. I'll be offering my wife the house in North America and my truck in return for a fast divorce. I think that's fair. I'll keep my home down here. The other option would be to liquidate and split everything, but she spent 30 years getting the house how she wants it, so I doubt she'll go for that. If she wants to keep the house, I guess that'll be up to her and the kids now. Thanks for helping me turn a drunken rant into a life decision. I was probably headed that way, but an outside perspective crystallized my thoughts. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my sister's college when I'm paying for my fiancé's? So I, 29 male, grew up dirt poor. Like sharing meals and lights off half the month poor. My parents did their best, but with 5 of us, money was always tight. I hustled like crazy after high school, went to community college, then transferred to a good university while working full-time. I graduated with loans but landed a solid job in tech. Fast forward a decade and now I've got a good income and no debt. My fiancée, 26 female, is finishing her degree. She's been working too, but with her schedule and the cost of school, I offered to pay for her last 2 semesters so she could focus and graduate without loans. I want us to start our marriage on solid ground, so I don't mind helping her out. Enter my younger sister, 21 female, who's still in college. She recently found out I'm paying for my fiancé's tuition and flipped, saying if I can afford that, I should help her too. She's always been bitter about me getting out and doing well while she and the rest of my family are still struggling. I get it, but here's the thing. I've worked hard to be where I am, and I feel like my fiancé and I are building a future together. My sister and I aren't close, and it feels like she's asking out of entitlement, not need. Now, my parents have chimed in, saying it's family first and I'm abandoning them. I don't think I owe anyone anything, especially since I've already helped out when I could, paid off their electric bill last winter, etc. I'm torn. I don't want to be a selfish jerk, but I also don't want to set a precedent of being the family ATM. Am I the a-hole? Your fiancé is your family. Remind your parents and sister of that. You think he is an ATM? Better not to give a single penny. Exactly. Once you start, they'll expect it every time. Better to set boundaries now than deal with guilt trips forever. Tell them, yes, family first. That is why I am prioritizing the family fiancé and I are building and the family we will be creating. Yes, family first means focusing on the family OP and his fiancé are building together. He's prioritizing a future they're creating, which is exactly what he should be doing. Not the a-hole. You don't have to take care of your adult sister. You're not her husband, nor her father. She is an adult and can handle her own things. I'd go low contact with the entire family if I were you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that my stepdad was cheating with our neighbor and ruining their marriage? So I, 19 female, found out my stepdad was cheating on my mom, and now my whole family thinks I'm the bad guy. Here's what happened. I was at a coffee shop the other day, just grabbing a latte and trying to chill. As I am sitting there, I see my stepdad walk in. Nothing weird at first, I just assumed he was getting coffee too. But then our next door neighbor walks in right behind him and they sit down together. They were super close, and at first I thought maybe it was just a friendly catch-up. But then they started holding hands across the table. And at one point, he leaned over and kissed her. Right there, in the middle of the cafe. I felt sick. My mom has been through so much, and I couldn't believe he'd do this to her. I tried to tell myself it wasn't real, but I knew I had to let her know. So I snapped a couple of photos on my phone, just in case she needed proof, and later that night I showed her. She was devastated, obviously. I mean, who would it be? She ended up confronting him, and things have been a mess since then. She's been talking about leaving him, and they're arguing all the time. Now here's where it gets worse. Somehow, everyone in my family found out what happened, and they all think I made a huge mistake by telling her. My aunts and uncles are saying I shouldn't have gotten involved, that it was a grown-up issue, and that I basically ruined their marriage. They keep saying my mom and stepdad would have worked things out eventually, and that I'm the reason they're falling apart. I'm honestly so confused and hurt by all this. I really thought I was doing the right thing by not letting my mom stay in the dark, but now everyone's making me feel like I made everything worse. So, am I the a-hole for telling my mom about the affair and ruining their marriage? Not the a-hole. He did wrong. You looked out for your mom, but you are being used as scapegoat. Thank you. He is a total a-hole. If you kept this secret for your stepdad, your mom would feel betrayed by you when it all came out later. Sooner or later, everything comes out. So, most of your family thinks cheating should be kept secret? What a family you have. Perhaps there is more cheating and everyone is afraid you will squeal on them too. I would ask them straight up if they think what he did was fine and if they think cheating is okay. Yeah, they're probably cheaters as well.